সনাতন তাহা মোর স্বরূপ রূপ কাহা দাস রঘুনাথ পতিত পাবন কাহা দাস রঘুনাথ কাহা মোর ভট্ট যুগ কাহা কবিরা কাহা মোর কাহা কবিরা एको काले कोता गेला गोरा नटोरा एको काले कोता পাশানে পুটিব মাথা অনলে পশিব পাশানে কুটিব মাথা অনলে পশিব গৌরাঙ্গ গুণের নিধি কোথা গেলে পাবো গৌরাঙ্গ গুণের নিধি কোথা গেলে শিশবশ গেরো সঙ্গী যে কইল বিলাস শিশবশ গেরো সঙ্গী যে কইল বিলাস সে সঙ্গ না পায়া কান্দে নরোত্তম দাস সে সঙ্গ না পায়া যে আনিল প্রেম ধন করুণা প্রচুর এ আনি ধন করুণা প্রচুর হেন প্রভু কোথা গেলা আচার্য ঠাকুর হেন প্রভু কোথা আচার্য ঠাকুর জয় বৈষ্ণব ঠাকুর বৈষ্ণব ঠাকুর বৈষ্ণব ঠাকুর জয় বৈষ্ণব ঠাকুর বৈষ্ণব ঠাকুর বৈষ্ণব ঠাকুর বৈষ্ণব ঠাকুর জয় প্রভু পদ প্রভু পদ Pada, Jagadguru Śrīla Prabhupada. Jagadguru Śrīla Prabhupada.
What is the number?
1321.
1321. 1321. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Today we're reading from Canto 1, Chapter 3, Text 21. Tataḥ saptadaśe jātaḥ satyavatyāṁ parāśarāt cakre veda-taroḥ śākhā dṛṣṭvā puṁso lpa-medhasaḥ tataḥ saptadaśe jātaḥ satyavatyāṁ parāśarāt cakre veda-taroḥ śākhā dṛṣṭvā puṁso lpa-medhasaḥ tataḥ saptadaśe jātaḥ satyavatyāṁ parāśarāt cakre veda-taroḥ śākhā dṛṣṭvā puṁso lpa-medhasaḥ.
tataḥ saptadaśe jātaḥ satyavatyāṁ parāśarāt
Matajis? Tataḥ. Thereafter, saptadaśe, in the 17th incarnation, jātaḥ, advented, satyavatyāṁ, in the womb of Satyavatī, parāśarāt, by Parāśara Muni, cakre, prepared, veda-taroḥ, of the desired tree of the Vedas, śākhāḥ, branches, dṛṣṭvā, be seeing, puṁsaḥ, the people in general, alpa-medhasaḥ, less intelligent. Translation. Thereafter, in the 17th incarnation of Godhead, Śrī Vyāsadeva appeared in the Satyavatī through Parāśara Muni, and he divided the one Veda into several branches and sub-branches, seeing that the people in general were less intelligent. We can repeat together. Thereafter, in the 17th incarnation of Godhead, Śrī Vyāsadeva appeared in the womb of Satyavatī through Parāśara Muni, and he divided the one Veda into several branches and sub-branches, seeing that the people in general were less intelligent. Purport. Originally the Veda is one, but Śrīla Vyāsadeva divided the original Veda into four, namely Sāma, Yajur, Rig, Atharva, and then again they were explained in different branches like the Puranas and the Mahabharata. Vedic language and the subject matter are very difficult for ordinary men. They are understood by the highly intelligent and self-realized Brahmins. But the present age of Kali is full of ignorant men. Even those who are born by a Brahmin father are, in the present age, no better than the Sudras or the women. The twice-born men, namely the Brahmins, Kshatriyas, and Vaishyas, are expected to undergo a cultural purificatory process known as sanskaras. But because of the bad influence of the present age, the so-called members of the Brahmin and other high-order families are no longer highly cultured. They are called dvija-bandhus, or the friends and family members of the twice-born. But these dvija-bandhus are classified amongst the Sudras and the women. Śrīla Vyāsadeva divided the Vedas into various branches and sub-branches for the sake of the less intelligent classes, like the dvija-bandhus, Sudras, and women. Om Ajnane Timirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakshurunmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Sva Padantekam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivas Arigor Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Today is a very glorious day. It's the Ashad Purnima, also called Guru Purnima, because this is the divine appearance day, as we heard here in this sloka, of the 17th incarnation of Godhead, Śrī Vyāsadeva. Vyāsadeva's full name is Śrī Krishna Dvaipayana Vyāsadeva. So that name has many important connotations. Śrī Krishna, first of all, he was blackish in color. Second of all, he was an incarnation of Krishna, so the name Krishna is there in his name. And then Dvaipayana. Dvaipayana comes from the word dvip. Dvip means island. So the history of Śrīla Vedavyas's birth goes back quite a few generations. Srila Prabhupada explains, as we know, in each millennium there are 4 different yugas, the Satya Yuga, then normally the Dwapara Yuga, Dwapara means the second, and then the Treta Yuga, and then Kali Yuga. But there are particular sandhyas, and that is when there's an overlapping of the different yugas. And sometimes, as in the case that we are now present in the reign of Vaivasvata Manu, the overlapping occurred in the 28th cycle of the yugas. And at that time, the Treta Yuga came before the Dwapara Yuga. So therefore, normally we think it's Satya, Treta, Dwapara, and then Kali. But actually, that's because a particular overlapping occurred in this particular millennium. So Vasishta Muni, very famous, coming from Lord Brahma himself. He was deep in meditation. He had 100 sons and many, many illustrious disciples, such as Dasarath, and then Ram and Lakshman. Vasishta Muni used to look after the kingdom there as the guru in Ayodhya. And he had one particular disciple who accidentally, he was a king, and he was killing in the forest, and he killed a Rakshasa. That's his duty. They have to protect the praja by killing the unwanted elements. But this Rakshasa had a brother, and he forgave the brother and didn't kill him. So the brother, in order to take revenge, entered into the palace of that king, became the cook, and he fed flesh to Vasishta Muni when he came to see his disciple, the king. Vasishta Muni could divine that, and in anger, he cursed the king, although the king was completely faultless, to become a Rakshasa. This is all described in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Kalmashapada. So he became a king for a Rakshasa for 12 years. And because of a disagreement between Vasishta and Vishramita that went on for a very long time, Vishramita instigated that all of the sons would be killed by Vasishta would be killed. Particularly the eldest son, named Shakti, was eaten by this Rakshasa. And when Vasishta came to learn that all of his sons had died, he decided to commit suicide. And he tried many, many different ways, throwing himself in the ocean threw him back on the shore, throwing himself in rivers, putting himself in fire. If Krishna wants to save you, even if you want to die, you can't die. So in remorse, he returned to his home. And when he returned to his home, after being unsuccessful, he discovered that his daughter-in-law, who was the wife of Shakti, his eldest son, she was only 12 years old, she was pregnant. That means that she was going to have a son, and therefore the lineage could go on of Vasishta Muni. So that son was Parāśara Muni. And Parāśara Muni was very carefully trained by his grandfather, Vasishta. Parāśara Muni was very famous for his Dharma Shastras. Prabhupada often quotes him that it was he who gave the definition of Bhagavan, being complete in all of the 6 opulences. We hear Parāśara Muni's name particularly in that reference. And as Parāśara Muni was traveling throughout the world, he had to cross a river. So a fisherman, he gave his daughter to carry him in a boat to the other side of the shore. Now, he was also a very great astrologer. And he divined at that time that this is the time of the appearance of the Supreme Lord. and Satyavaty would be a proper recipient of that avatar. Now Satyavaty, she was not an ordinary fisher girl, Machyali as Prabhupada called it in Bengali. She was actually the daughter of Upadichara Vasu, who impregnated her into another fisherwoman whose name was Matsyagandha. So this young girl, Satyavaty, who her name was Matsyagandha, Matsyagarbha was the mother, and the fisher girl, Satyavaty, her other name at that time was Matsyagandha because she smelled like a fish. So she was raised by a fisherman because the fishermen, they raised her as their daughter, although she was a daughter of a Vasu. Extremely beautiful, but smelled like a fish. So when Parāśara explained to her that I want to impregnate you with a very divine son, she naturally objected. She was an unmarried young girl. She said, I smell like a fish, I'm not qualified. And not only that, we're crossing the river and the people on the other side of the river, on one side and my father on the other side, they'll see what we're doing. So then Parāśara Muni, by his divine powers, right there in the river, he created an island and he created a fog. So on the island, he impregnated Satyavaty. He then gave her a boon that she would smell like kasturi, and her new name would be Yojana Gandha, that within 1 yojana, this scent of her body could be experienced. So later this would be very useful when Santanu Maharaj meets her. So there on the island, Śrī Vyāsadeva was born. He grew up very quickly, and he was trained by his father in all the Vedic Shastras. And then Vyāsadeva, he also took disciples. And Vyāsadeva, we know, he fathered because Satyavatī, she gave birth to Vyāsadeva. And then later, when Santanu Maharaj had lost his first wife, Ganga Devi, she returned to the heavenly planets. In despair, he was wandering in the forests of the Himalayas, and he met Satyavatī, and he wanted to marry her. He asked her father, the fisherman, if he could marry her. The father objected that you have an elder son, Bhishmadev, and that means my sons will be subjugated, and your son, Bhishmadev, will become the king. So I don't give permission for you to marry her. So Santanu, he was very depressed, and Bhishmadev found out from the minister of Santanu what the cause of his depression was. Bhishmadev at that time took a very severe vow that he would not marry and he would not have children. And then he arranged that Santanu Maharaj could marry Satyavatī. So Satyavatī, from that marriage, she gave birth to 2 sons, Chitrangada and Vichitravirya. So Chitrangada, the eldest, he was to be the king, but he had a battle with a Gandharva named Chitrangada, and that Gandharva killed him. So then the next son, he had to marry and carry on the lineage. And Bhishmadev, he was very young. Bhishmadev, he kidnapped the 2 daughters of the king of Kashi and brought Ambika and Ambalika to marry Vichitravirya. Vichitravirya was very attached to the 2 wives, And as a result of that, he got consumption, tuberculosis, and he died also. So now Satyavatī was in a fix because her two sons had both died. Bhishmadev, he wasn't going to be the king, and how was the lineage going to carry on? So at that time, she informed Santanu Maharaj about her previous son, Vyāsadeva. And Vyāsadeva was called, although in Kali Yuga this is not permitted, the Devara Sutopati, that the brother-in-law can impregnate the wife of his brother. So he was called Vyāsadeva, and he impregnated Ambalika, and a third maidservant, the kept maidservant of Vichitravirya, and from those three women, the three sons, Dhritarashtra, Pandu, and Vidura were born. Now Vyāsadeva, he had performed his duty by assisting his mother, and then he returned to his home, to his own wife. He had from her one most illustrious son, who we know is Srila Sukadeva Goswami. And Sukadeva Goswami, although he was fully self-realized and refused to exit into this material world, he stayed in his mother's womb. Vyasadeva called Sri Krishna himself to convince his son to come out of the womb and to assure him that he would not be attacked by Maya. So even after Sukadeva came out of the womb, he was still instructed by his father in Srimad Bhagavatam. And then by the grace of Sukadeva Goswami and Śrīla Vyāsadeva, we are able to hear this Bhagavad Purana. So Vyasadeva, seeing the effect of Kali Yuga, Dwapara Yuga was about to end, and seeing the degraded nature of humankind, he realized that the people were no longer qualified to hear the Shrutis and remember them. Previously, the Veda was one, and the qualified dvijas would hear from their guru and immediately memorize all of the Shrutis. Now that wasn't going to be possible. So he divided the one Veda into the four Vedas that's mentioned here, the Sāma, Yajur, Rig, and Atharva Vedas. And even that was going to be difficult for the people in Kali Yuga. So for the women, the laborers, and the dvija-bandhus, the unqualified Brahmins, or twice born, he created the Mahabharata, which is described here in the Srimad Bhagavatam, what the purpose of that was for. He also created the 18 Puranas, the Vedanta Sutra, the Upanishads. So this is all to the credit of Srila Veda Vyas. And this being his appearance day, this is considered the day when everyone worships and honors their teachers and their gurus. So while Srila Prabhupada was present with his disciples, on one Guru Purnima, the disciples informed Prabhupada that today is the appearance day of Sanatana Goswami. It's also Guru Purnima. And Prabhupada explained to his disciples that generally Guru Purnima is observed by the Mayavadis. But the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, they observe Vyasa Puja on the day of the appearance of their particular guru. So he did not give importance to the worship of Guru on the Guru Purnima, because it's a nondescript worship of all the gurus. But still the devotees wanted to perform Guru Purnima. So in their own way they tried to do some celebrations. And they wrote to Prabhupada that today we hear that it's Guru Purnima, so we had kirtan, and we made a lot of wonderful prasadam, puffed up kachoris, and we offered them. And Prabhupada wrote back, well, that is very nice that you're performing this, although the Gaudiya Vaishnavas do not give importance to Guru Purnima. The actual day for worshipping the Guru is on the Vyasa Puja day of your particular Guru. But in particular on this day, you should assist in my book fund. If you really want to do proper worship, then you can send a contribution to my book fund, because this is how Prabhupada wanted his disciples to assist him with book distribution. And he said, he wrote to them that I see you forgot to do that. So coming up shortly is Vyasa Puja, the day after Janmashtami. And you can remember to give a donation to my book fund on that day. So the devotees in the very beginning were a little confused how to do even the Vyasa Puja. In 1968, Prabhupada's secretary, her name was Govinda Dasi, she wanted to worship Prabhupada on Vyasa Puja, so she did it the American style, which has crept in now to our society as well. She made a big birthday cake for Prabhupada, a double-layer birthday cake, and she put candles on it, because this is what they do in the Western countries on people's birthdays. And she brought it into Srila Prabhupada and said, "Happy birthday, Prabhupada. This is your birthday cake. Now blow out all the candles and make a wish. And you don't have to tell us what the wish is." So Prabhupada, he had never seen anything like this before. He was a little stunned. But he went right along with it. He blew out all the candles and he made a wish. And he told her what his wish was. He says, "I only wish to attain Krishna and Krishna's service." So the devotees also pray that they can also have that same wish that Srila Prabhupada had on his Vyasa Puja day, to only attain Krishna and Krishna's service. So aside from being Guru Purnima, the official day of worshipping the Guru, it is also the disappearance day of Srila Sanatana Goswami, who was one of the Param Gurus in our Sampradaya. Sanatana Goswami, Rupa Goswami, and Anupam, they were born in the Saraswata Brahmin family from Karnataka. Due to family dissension, they had to leave their native place of Karnataka, and they settled in Bengal. And there, due to their erudition, particularly of the three boys, their father's name was Kumar Dev, and Sanatana Goswami's name at birth was Sri Amar. So they underwent intensive Brahminical studies. One of their gurus was the brother of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, and they had many other gurus who were training them in Sanskrit, rhetoric, all of the grammar, everything. So unfortunately, the Badshah, Hussain Shah, who had conquered Bengal at that time, he took note of these very intelligent young boys, and he insisted that they take part in his ministry. Of course, they didn't want to do so, but in order to protect the Brahmins and the Vedic society in that time, they feared that if they refused, then he would go against further the Brahmins and the Vedic followers. So they agreed to become servants in the ministry. Sanatana Goswami was made the chief minister. Rupa Goswami was made the finance minister. And because of their erudition, Nawab Hussain Shah, he was able to freely conquer many, many different lands because his ministers were taking care of the government very astutely. So they had heard at that time of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The capital was in Ramakeli, and Mahaprabhu, he had appeared, of course, in Navadvip. And they very much wanted to meet Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but they soon heard that Mahaprabhu had taken sannyas and left Bengal and gone to Puri. And they fainted. They were in such devastation. But then they heard a celestial voice saying that you will meet Mahaprabhu here only in Ramakeli. And after 5 years, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu returned to Bengal, to Shantipur, to see his mother, Advaita Chandra, and the other devotees in Navadvip. And then he went on to Ramakeli. And there, the three brothers and the infant Jiva Goswami had darshan of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and took shelter of him. And at that time, he gave them the names Sri Sanatan and Sri Rupa and Sri Vallabh. So, because Sanatan, being the chief minister, he could not immediately retire from his government work, but the other two brothers, they decided they would retire. They would take all of their wealth they had accumulated, put it on a boat, take their family back to their home, and give up everything and follow Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So they did that, and they heard that Mahaprabhu, he was going to Vrindavan, and they met Mahaprabhu in Prayag. And there Rupa Goswami received 10 days of instruction directly from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Now, Rupa Goswami informed Chaitanya Mahaprabhu at that time that Sanatan Goswami, he had been imprisoned by the Shah. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he smiled and he said, very soon he will be liberated. And that came to pass. Rupa Goswami sent a secret letter to Sanatan Goswami in the prison that I have left, an amount of rupees. Sometimes they say 800 gold coins, sometimes they say 10,000 gold coins. It depends which books you read. Those gold coins were used by Sanatan Goswami to bribe the jailer. He was set free, and then he came incognito and met Chaitanya Mahaprabhu finally in Benares, in Varanasi. And there, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu instructed Sanatan Goswami for 2 months on the entire science of Krishna consciousness. And he instructed Sanatan Goswami 3 things. These are the instructions of all the 6 Goswamis. Sanatan Goswami was able to immediately take this up. First, that he should write literatures on the science of bhakti yoga. Second was that he should go to Vrindavan, excavate the holy places of Krishna Leela that had been lost over time, and within those holy places, they should establish temples of the Supreme Lord. So Sanatan Goswami then had his instructions, life instructions, from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He proceeded to Vrindavan to carry out those instructions. He lived for some time in Mahavan, and he lived for some time in Nandagram at Pavan Sarovara, and he was also in Chakleshwar at Govardhan, and he would wander throughout Braj, and he was the guru of all of the Brijbasis at that time. He would assist them even with their family problems. He knew all the family members' names. He knew when they were getting married. He knew what their sicknesses were. He knew their children's names. He was just like a father and a guru to all the Brijbasis at that time. And he was very much loved. It's said, therefore, that this Muriya Purnima is in honor of Sanatana Goswami, because the Brijbasis still remember the love and the instructions they received from Sanatana Goswami. That's why we're having our camp in Govardhan. Now, Prabhupada also explained, and he gave an example of this Guru Purnima. He said that he told the disciples that he was in Washington, D.C. one time, that's the capital of America. And on this Guru Purnima, one woman came to him. She explained to him that I have a pain in my back, and because of the pain in my back, I have a terrible pain in my leg, and I was wondering if you could help me, Swamiji. And Swamiji Prabhupada explained to her that there's so many doctors. You have a pain in your leg, then you go to a doctor. I'm not a doctor. She said, no, but I want you to perform a miracle and remove the pain from my leg. So Prabhupada said, this is why we don't engage in this Guru Purnima worship. And this is also why in Govardhan now, you'll have 3 crore people, whatever the number is. I don't know how many zeros is in a crore. Why are they coming to Govardhan to do their parikramas? Why are they worshipping their gurus? So we have to see the purity of purpose. When we worship our guru, that was set by Sanatana Goswami. When he approached Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he had one question for Mahaprabhu, though he was very learned in his own right. With such humility, he asked Mahaprabhu, Keami, kene amai jare tapatrai? Why am I suffering? Who am I? I don't even know who I am, and I don't know why I'm suffering. There's a force that although we want to live, we're not able to live because of this tapatrayo. Iha nae jani, kemane hitahai. If I don't know this much, then what benefit is there in my life? So with such humility, Sanatana Goswami approached Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This is in the Madhya Lila, chapter 20, the exchange between Sanatana Goswami and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It's sloka 102. So in 105, Mahaprabhu replies to Sanatana Goswami, Krishna Shakti Daratumi. You have Krishna's potency. Jana Tattva Bhava. You already know all of the truths. Jani Dharya Lagi Puche Sadur Swabhav. That simply because of your strictness, we know the word dridha, very strict. So that's that word dharya. Jani Dharya Lagi Puche. That simply because of the strictness and your understanding the proper system, you are presenting yourself so humbly as if you don't know all of these truths. Because this is the way we should approach our spiritual master. As fools, that I don't know who I am, without your mercy, without your instructions, what is the benefit of my life? So Mahaprabhu told Sanatana Goswami that you already know all these truths, but because of your humility and your strictness, you're approaching me in this way. Since you possess Lord Krishna's potency, you certainly know these things. However, it is the nature of a sadhu to inquire. Although he knows these things, the sadhu inquires for the sake of strictness. Now then, Mahaprabhu went on to describe that this is in the Antya Lila, Krishna Shakti Bina Nahe Nama Pracharana. So Prabhupada, he describes that one cannot become a guru by self-proclamation. One has to have the power of attorney. Now, what does power of attorney mean? Prabhupada was very educated in all matters, both spiritual and material. In the legal process, if you are an attorney, a vakil, you have to get the power of attorney from your client. Written contract, that this is my representative, he can represent me in the court. Correct? This is called power of attorney. Without that written contract, you cannot represent a client in the court. So Prabhupada says that in order to become a guru, you have to have the power of attorney. And where does that power of attorney come from? Prabhupada says, you can't just go to a tree and pick it off of the tree. No, you have to be qualified by your guru. And that guru, he will give you the power. Nahe nama pracharana, Krishna Shakti bina. He will give you the power to preach. One time, one of Prabhupada's personal secretaries, he was serving Prabhupada for some time, and he became restless. And he explained to Prabhupada that, Prabhupada, I'd like to go and preach now like my godbrothers. And Prabhupada was disappointed. He said, well, you're assisting me in my preaching. Isn't that also preaching? But still he was insistent. He wanted to go back to the West. He wanted to go preach, make devotees. And therefore he left Prabhupada's personal service. And when you leave the spiritual master's personal service, it causes a discomfort to the guru, because you're already trained, you already know everything that has to be done, and then the guru has to go searching for someone to replace you. It's a great discomfort for the guru. So he left, he went up back to preach, and then when he met Prabhupada again, he came to see him, and he asked Prabhupada, would you like to hear what I've been doing, Srila Prabhupada? How I've been preaching? And Prabhupada said to him, what is your preaching? So we have to understand what preaching actually is. If we are the disciple of the Guru, it means we are the assistant of the Guru. And whatever his order is, we assist that Guru in fulfilling the order of his Guru. And this is the real parampara. It's not that I become a big preacher, I will go out now and preach. No, Prabhupada says you can't just pick that off of a tree. You have to be qualified. You have to get the power, the potency from your guru in order to preach. Now, Sanatana Goswami was the perfect example of that. He didn't have time even to take care of his own bodily needs. He would simply go out to some Brijbasi's home, beg some atta. Didn't even have time to cook, so he would make a fire, take some Jamuna water, roll it with the atta, throw the buttis into the fire. No salt, no ghee, nothing. Because in order to get salt and ghee, either you had to go to a rich man's house and beg from him, which would take extra time, or you had to beg some money and buy it in the market. He didn't have time for that, because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had told him what he wanted him to do. So when Madan Gopal came to him, Madan Gopal wanted to live with Sanatana Goswami. There are many different stories, legends about how Madan Gopal appeared and came to live here at the Madan Mohan Tila there. One day, Madan Mohan refused to eat. He said, you're feeding me these dry bhatti, no salt, nothing. And Sanatana Goswami said, he was crying. He said, I told you, I'm just a sadhu. I don't have time to go out and get salt and ghee and the things that you need. I warned you about this when you came to me. So then Madan Gopal decided to take matters in his own hands, and a boat came, just the Jamuna was flowing there, that's why all the ghats are there, and it got stuck in a sandbar, and it was a very wealthy Shah Kapoor. And he was trying to get his boat free, he heard that there was a sadhu on the hill. He went up to the sadhu, Sanatana Goswami. Swamiji, please help me. My boat is stuck. And Sanatana Goswami, I don't know anything about boats. I can't help you, but you can talk to Madan Mohan here. Maybe he can help you. So then the Sethji went to the deity and prayed to him. He supplicated that if you free my boat, all of the profit that I make, I will build you a beautiful temple and I will have so much nice arrangements for your worship. So that night, Madan Gopal arranged that a huge storm came, and from the rain, the boat was lifted up off of the sandbar and he was able to go to Mathura. He made a huge profit. With that profit, the Madan Mohan temple was constructed. Sanatana Goswami then was able to turn over the worship of Madan Mohan to his disciples, and he was free then to travel and write. So this is a beautiful history of Sanatana Goswami. He left this world, he disappeared here in Braj. He came here at the age of 27. He lived here for 43 years. So at the age of 70, he left this world, and he was brought to the Madan Mohan temple. Below the hill is where his samadhi is. And there's also a Grantha Samadhi there of all of the works of the Goswamis. So some of his major works are Brihad Bhagavatamrita, Sri Hari Bhakti Vilas, Digdarshani Tika, Sri Krishna Lila Stava, Sri Bhagavat Tipani, and Brihad Vaishnava Toshini. Many of these are commentaries on Bhagavatam and other, a commentary on his own Hari Bhakti Vilas, like that. So aside from the appearance of Śrī Vyāsadeva and the disappearance of Sanatana Goswami, we're also celebrating with great remorse the disappearance of our beloved godbrother, Guru, GBC chairman, establisher of so many services within ISKCON, His Holiness Bhakti Charu Swami. Bhakti Charu Swami is a most incredible disciple of Srila Prabhupada. There's a saying, save the best for last. So although many of Prabhupada's disciples joined him 1966, 1968, 1970, 75, Bhakti Charu Swami, although he was born in an aristocratic Bengali family, got an excellent education in both Bengal, East and West Bengal, then went to Germany to further his studies. There in Germany, he became attracted to his own culture of Vedic studies. There he began to study. And it was when he came back from Germany that he was introduced to Srila Prabhupada and Srila Prabhupada's books. And this is in 1976. Just at the end, within 1 year of Prabhupada's disappearance. He came to Mayapur and in 1976. I remember him because in those days, in Mayapur, the only bhaktas that we got were Bangladeshi refugees, orphans, thoroughly uneducated. And I was wondering, while living in Mayapur at that time, how is this movement going to progress because before that we had very few Indian disciples of Srila Prabhupada. In Mayapur we were collecting some disciples, but they were from a bit of a backward background, we can say. And then here comes this brilliant, educated young man, and he comes to live in Mayapur. And I would see him, and I said, how in the world did he, how did he end up in Mayapur? So Prabhupada had sent him because Prabhupada, although Prabhupada had written about 80 books, he was trying to get all of his books translated into all the languages of the world. And although Prabhupada was translating the books from Bengali, even Prabhupada's, the tikas that Prabhupada used for his Bhagavatam, they were all in Bengali. So the origin was Bengali language, but the books were being translated into English. Now those books had to be translated back into Bengali so that the general masses of people, the Bengalis, could get Prabhupada's books. So Prabhupada, he ordered Bhakti Charu. At that time his name was Tota Gopinath. At the time of initiation, he was initiated 1977, Gaur Purnima, the last Gaur Purnima that we had with Srila Prabhupada. And he ordered him to translate all of his books into Bengali. And he would every day instruct his disciple how the translation should be going on. So this went on, and very shortly afterwards, Prabhupada wanted to give him sannyas. He got first and second initiation at the same time. And then the sannyas initiation, the other disciples, sannyasi disciples of Prabhupada, objected that he's a brand new devotee. And you want to immediately give him sannyas? Don't you have to test him a little longer? But Prabhupada could understand the quality of his disciple. And here on Snan Purnima Day, 1977, he gave him a new name, Bhakti Charu Swami, and awarded him with sannyas. And he became Prabhupada's personal everything. Cook, secretary, servant, everything. He went everywhere with Srila Prabhupada. He could not go to London with Srila Prabhupada. And because his passport was somewhere in Calcutta, and Prabhupada was immediately leaving. So Prabhupada went for some time to London and then had to come back because he realized that it was time for him to leave his body. And Bhakti Charu Swami, he served Srila Prabhupada intimately up until his last breath. You'll see, it was he who was serving Charanamrita. It was he because he was the only Indian practically amongst the entourage of Prabhupada. He had to do all the translation work, both in Hindi and in Bengali, amongst Prabhupada's godbrothers. Whenever people would come, the Vaidya, the Kaviraj, the Ramanujacharya Kaviraj, everything, he was the via media between Srila Prabhupada and the rest of the disciples, because no one else could understand Hindi and Bengali. So he played such a pivotal role. And then at Prabhupada's disappearance, he was prepared to enter into the samadhi with Prabhupada and not come out. But he was convinced by Tamal Krishna Maharaj that no, you can't stay here in the samadhi, you have to come out. So he went on to become GBC. He went on to translate all of Srila Prabhupada's books in Bengali. He completed that for the centennial in 1996. You can see in our bookshops, every single book is there. So he is the recipient of Prabhupada's mercy for fulfilling that order. Also because his father was a cinema maker, he knew that trade. So he made over 100 episodes called Abhay Charan that was seen by over 4 million people on national television of Prabhupada's entire life story. He, in 10 months, he built and opened the Ujjain temple at the holy place of Ujjayini, where Krishna and Balaram studied under Śrī Muni. He was made twice the chairman of the GBC in 1996 and 2017. And he went on to try to fulfill every instruction he possibly could. He had that power of attorney. He even decided that he would expand his preaching in the Western countries by establishing a huge 120-acre project in DeLand, Florida. DeLand, Florida is known because Disneyland is there. Disneyland. And a lot of tourists go there. So he got a huge amount of land, and he wanted to start an ideal Vedic community there in America. And he appointed some of his disciples who are there still, developing the community. And just as, because he was with Srila Prabhupada at the final stage, Srila Prabhupada, although he could not even turn on his side by himself, he hadn't eaten for months, he still wanted to go and preach in the Western countries. So seeing that determination of Srila Prabhupada, Bhakti Swami, it was COVID time, complete lockdown all over the world. And he felt, just as Srila Prabhupada did, that he was just rotting. He did not want to just sit in India. He wanted to continue preaching. And he decided, he informed his disciples, he informed his godbrothers, I must continue my preaching, despite the lockdown. So he went to Florida to continue his project. And on the way, he contracted COVID. As soon as he arrived in America, he had to be admitted in a hospital. He got the best possible treatment. But because here in Vrindavan at that time, his disciples, they were performing so many yagyas, mrityunjay yagya, whatever they could to help their spiritual master overcome this catastrophe in his life. And the Purohit who was doing the yagya, he said, there's nothing I can do. Mrityu has captured him. So we could understand at that time that Bhakti Swami, although he was not in the holy dhams, he had gone for preaching to fulfill his spiritual master's instruction. There, with the full attitude of I must carry out my spiritual master's instructions by preaching all over the world, he left this world on this day, this auspicious day, and today we'll be observing his Tirobhav. So everyone, of course, is invited to come and hear the glories of Bhakti Swami. And we've gone over time, so I'll stop here now. Hare Krishna. Jai.